All right, welcome to another DFW Running Talk. I'm Chris Detzel, and today's special guest is Jera Crandall. Jera, how are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing it's funny because I think I first met you, or at least first saw you at a Pegasus run. Although I was doing WRC, I came out to Taco Joint, started running. I was like, oh, I wonder who that is. And then all of a sudden, you ran this marathon recently. The first one, you're 20 years old. Alice Marathon. Your goal was under 3 hours, right? Yeah, and I was like, this woman's 20, just trying to get under 3 hours for the first one. This is crazy. I've not really talked to a lot of 20-year-olds trying to, period, and a woman trying to hit under 3 hours. So that's really cool. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Just what'd you do in high school, whether it was some kind of sport, running. How'd you get into that? Let's talk a little bit about you.
So, in terms of school sports, I never played sports for the school, not in
Yeah.
elementary, middle, or high school, but I started skating. I started figure skating when I was 12 years old.
Okay. Yeah. And you did that for how long?
I'm still doing that now.
Oh, wow. So you must be pretty good.
I mean,
Do you think you're good or?
I think I'm mediocre at it. I don't think I'm bad at it, but I don't think I'm spectacular at it either. But there's always, like in everything, room to keep learning.
Yeah. Did you do like any competitions in figure skating or was it just for fun?
So the last time I competed was 2023. I do
Okay.
want to compete again in skating. I found I couldn't be successful in competition because I just had so much anxiety when I competed in figure skating, but I'm determined to get back into that and be able to compete and put out a performance that I'm actually proud of.
I would think figure skating, there's a lot that goes on in that, and I'm sure it's stressful.
Yeah.
So I can imagine. That's pretty cool. So how did you get into running? What was your, I don't even, have you been running for a long time or?
Kind of, but also not at the same time. So it's not very well known, the first thing that initially made me start running, because I just have passed it off as I started like running somewhat just because we needed to train endurance for our skating programs, which that is the case. But when I
Yeah.
started running just like for long periods of time, it was actually because I've dealt with some pretty major eating disorder struggles since I was
Oh,
12, and I ran because I just knew that burned a lot of calories. And so I ran for it was a terrible purpose to run, but I would run for that sole purpose.
wow. So you were younger and you would run just to try to lose weight and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Or at least, okay. You probably weren't eating a lot either, I assume. So hopefully you got help for that and all that kind of stuff.
I'm definitely better than I used to be. I still think
Awesome.
about certain things like thinner makes me rotate faster, thinner makes you run faster, but that's not ever the case when it comes to
Yeah.
sports like this.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So when you start thinking about healthy running, did you like start doing 5Ks, 10Ks, or what was your thinking around racing? What was,
So
and when did
I
that start?
randomly with my best friend's sister did a 5K at the very end of 2023
Okay.
and actually went surprisingly well considering I would just basically set a clock for an hour, run every morning with no knowledge of how far, how fast, like what I was doing. I just knew I ran for an hour.
Hey, that's fun. Don't worry about the clocks. And so did you start feeling competitive, like wanting to just beat other women or do really well in the race?
So
Any of
I
those
ended
kind
up winning the female category of that 5K.
of, okay. What'd you
And
run?
I ended up running 19:28 in that 5K, which I had no
That was your
idea.
first.
Yeah, I didn't even know what I ran. I like finished and I was like, was that good? Like I had no concept of mile pace, what running a fast mile even meant. I didn't even know the distance of like I knew it was 3.1 miles, but I didn't know how far that was. I just ran really fast and hoped.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Just one day going out and running a 19 something. That's crazy. All right. Did that get you excited or what was going through your mind then?
I was definitely intrigued, but I ended up not touching the competitive side of running again until the very end of 2024 when I
Okay.
did actually the Turkey Trot last year, where I realized I had been running, but definitely not in a way that made me any better or maintained fitness because I realized I'd lost a significant amount of fitness despite still running. And I ran 22 minutes at that Turkey Trot. I nearly died at the end. Not really, but it was rough.
Which one did you do? 5K or 10 or the 8 miler?
I did the 5K in
Okay.
2024, and that was actually the race that made me decide that I wanted to be a seriously competitive distance runner. And at the time, I didn't know what distance I wanted to specialize in, but that's what made me want to actually be good at the sport.
All right. So now we're getting somewhere, I think. You run a 5K back in 2023, it sounds, and then you're like, that was fun. I guess I won, but whatever.
Yeah.
Didn't do anything for a little while, I guess. So
Everything,
now,
I just kept everything my mind on skating fully.
okay, so your mind was still on skating. Got it. That makes a little bit more sense. So you're still focused, right? Like you were just focused on skating.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's hard to let go, and you haven't let go,
No.
but you've really started thinking about running. So after the Turkey Trot, you said you want to do more of that. What happened there?
So then I signed up for another 5K that was in December. And I remember I was like, I have a month of training. Like, I was getting into workouts. I started finding pro runner YouTube channels, watching these
Sure.
things like how to get faster. I'd do mile repeats around a lake in my neighborhood off of a stopwatch, measure the distance of a mile, and try to do workouts and find ways to run a much faster 5K than I had run a month previously.
That's pretty serious. So what happened?
I did run faster. Ran that 5K like I know I ran 6:48 pace for that 5K.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the time is for that, but I know I ran 6:48 pace.
Were you happy with it?
Definitely, I was much closer to my previous. I was back into the sixes
Were you
again.
thinking, so I mean, you got somewhat serious in running the 5K. What was going through your mind after that one? Did you want to run more or what went on?
I definitely did want to run more. And then I started thinking about running 10K, but there was a stretch so I debuted my 10K in March, but there was a stretch in between there where I was pretty scared of the 10K distance. I was like, that 5K more sounds big. And like, I was scared of going to the 10K distance.
It's always a little scary to do that. Were you running with anybody at the time, or was it just you're doing this stuff on your own?
I was always solo.
Okay. So you're just looking for different plans on the internet or videos to see what they did?
Yeah, I watched pro runners like Ali Ostrander and her now. I think she got married. Yeah, pretty sure she got married to her husband Spencer. I watched their YouTube channels. Then I found Philly Bogan, who's a pro marathon runner that I love to watch. Found a lot of her workouts for race distances and like tips and stuff.
All right. I think that's awesome. You're like going through hey, look, I want to get better. And I guess
Cool.
these people know how to do it since they're pros. So you did this 10K. What'd you do to train for it?
So at that point, it was actually crazy that I did this. I had no concept. I really was going with like ignorance is bliss, pretty much. But I watched the mileage of like pro marathon runners or whatever. So I was like, oh, I'm just going to run. I'm going to start with between 55 and 60 miles a week. And then I went to between 60 and 70. And I just said, that sounds good with not any knowledge of what I was actually doing. And I just started running that and then stuck with it I would have 2 days that were workouts and then the rest easy miles. And I left it at that.
That's not really a bad approach. It's a lot of miles for 10K. When you think of like just in general running just more miles, even if it is slower pace,
Yeah.
just to build the body up, I think that is actually a really good approach. 10K, 60 miles, I don't know. You can get away easily with 40 to 35 easily. Still building up. So how'd you do? What, 50, 60 miles a week leading up? She did fairly decent.
So my big goal was at that point, I just wanted to run a sub 45-minute 10K, which at that time sounded like such a feat to do. But I
You
raced
never did it. No.
and I ended up running 42:59.
See, look, you're natural. So I think we're getting somewhere here. So when you ran that 10K, how were you feeling? Feeling pretty pumped afterwards and then, or during what was going on?
I was very excited about what I did. Still didn't really understand what I was doing, but I knew it was working and I obviously wanted to keep going further.
Yeah. So let's go back to the running the 40, 50, 60 milers. Did you know about the shoes, the gear, all these things and nutrition when using, I don't know, what did you or didn't you know about all?
I had no concept of using run nutrition. I hadn't yet carried a bottle. It took a while for me to carry a bottle for the first time, learning to take gels, let alone which gels I was going to end up using. Getting a watch. I didn't get my watch until January. So
2025 this year?
Yeah.
It's pretty, how would you know?
You would.
I'm sure you're seeing people with gels and water bottles and different types of shoes and stuff. How do you know what shoes to get? Maybe you kind of already knew that.
I actually didn't. I was racing and running in a pair of, I was wearing Asics, but they were
Uh,
the Asics gel Excites. And I ended up going to the Asics outlet at the Allen outlets and asking like the people there about getting new running shoes and stuff. And I found out I had been, because I was like, why do I have this, like, why do I get all these random like foot pain and whatever? And I was wearing shoes running this much that were meant for like daily walking for like a 2 mile run down the block. They weren't meant to be like racing and like running mileage on.
yeah, I remember my first pair of shoes, or yeah, basically when I was 37, I started running again, and I bought Nike. And what I didn't know about running shoes, anything really, but something that I think is important for people to know if you're just new to running, you probably should wear a half size or a size bigger than what you normally would wear because your feet swell as
Mhm.
you run those miles. I didn't know that. And so I put on some Nike and ran with them for 6 months and my feet were hurting like hell. And I was like, oh my God, like the Nikes are the worst. And come to find out, it wasn't really
Yeah.
the Nikes. It was just me not knowing to wear a size bigger. So I always now just wear the same size. Look at a small foot, I'll wear 8.5, but usually I'd wear 7.5. It's little things that I think are important as you move on. Like you said, like you're wearing some shoes that were
Yeah.
for walking and not for running, basically. All right. So when did you figure that out?
It was, yeah, because it was in between. I raced a 10K in March and then I had another
Yeah.
10K for May. So in between then, I found out what trainers were right. And that second 10K was when I actually wore my first pair of carving shoes for the first time. I got Nike
Wow.
Alpha Fly and I was like a kid in a candy store, like just like I'm wearing carving shoes. Wow. Like I never felt racing shoes. It was like such a crazy experience at the time, just like how much joy I found in racing shoes. And I was like, may I always feel this way about a new pair of racing shoes?
Every time I get a new pair of shoes, I get excited about it. And especially your first carbon plates. I think we're
Yeah.
all a little bit, oh my God, we're gonna fly. And it's true, you do go a little faster. And I think some of it helps with your recovery and things like that, especially on racing.
Yeah.
How'd you feel and do, with the shoes and a little bit smarter with the next 10K?
I ended up running 40:48 at that 10K.
Okay. Wow.
So I'd
I
cut a
mean,
decent chunk off since March.
yeah, a couple minutes, a little over. 40 minutes is ridiculously fast. So I ran a downhill not that long ago and I did PR on the 10K. I think I got 38 minutes, but it's a straight downhill.
Yeah.
And so I think I PR'd the 5K twice. My recommendation, do a downhill too at some point, but maybe not a full. All right. So you're still not running with anybody then at that second
Yeah, at
10K?
that
You're just,
point, I was still solo doing sessions on my own. I only did the same workout like twice a week. I would do 3 by 2 miles at 10K race pace, which is a brutal session to do. Having 3 reps of 2 miles at 10K race pace. That's a brutal one. And I did that one twice a week. And that was my favorite one to do. Or I would do 6 by mile.
the hard stuff.
I did. Still do.
So how'd you get involved in running? Because this wasn't all that long ago. That was this year. Right
Yeah.
now it's late December of 2025. So this probably won't come out until mid to late January. What got you into thinking longer? Well, hey, I want to do half marathon or a marathon or whatever.
So somewhere in between then, I did start doing long runs. I went out one day and I was like, I'm gonna try and do, at that point, my longest run was like, it wasn't that long. It was maybe 10 or something. I don't remember, 12, but I was like, I'm just gonna run 15 tonight and just see if I'm gonna do 15. And I did that but that was a really cool experience. I ended up running it far faster than I thought I could.
Hmm.
I ended up running think it was because I ended up doing two of these 15 milers. I don't remember if it was the first or the second, but I know that I had the night of my life because I ran a 1:35 half marathon in the 15-mile long run. And I
Oh,
was
wow. You're running
really
a little
like,
fast.
yeah, I didn't, yeah. And I was pretty
Did
excited
you,
about that.
that sounds pretty awesome. Were you thinking about, you got 15 miles and in that 15 miles you did the half, you're running really fast were you just so excited or did you
I
not
get
know
it.
you?
I didn't go in with the intention of that. I also was
Okay.
practicing a bottle for the first time. I had this black Nike water bottle that wasn't really, it was like a plastic like squirt bottle, so it works, but it wasn't really like the grip you'd want if you were going to race with it. But I
Yeah,
would put like just trying anything because I have a lot of stomach problems. So finding fuel it's a great challenge and to find fuel that works the most consistently. But I practiced with Gatorade first and started increasing the quantity slowly, stuff like that. Then I got into using gels.
that's awesome. I mean, that you're practicing it and smart. Because if I was running 15 miles, I need water and Gatorade and a gel or two. But I think that's important to practice. But you seem to be getting smarter and smarter as time goes, and both nutrition and getting the shoes and everything else. What made you decide? So you get all right. So you ran 15 miles twice. What happened then?
The next week I did a 17 miler. I ended up doing that, I
Oh
remember.
damn.
And that was pretty cool. I definitely felt the depletion feeling of the lack of carbs because when you think of a bottle of Gatorade, that was like 35 grams of carbs over 17 miles. At
Yeah.
least for me, that was not enough. So I was starting to learn this is what depletion feels like. We'll have to increase
Mm.
this incrementally. You definitely need more fuel than that for a 17 miler. But
Sometimes you just learn as you go.
yeah,
What works for you and what doesn't. And it's good that you're practicing it. And there's nothing like when you get to a marathon eventually, mile 20 to 22 or whatever, you'll start really feeling some of that if you don't properly fuel. And they call it what it is. They call it the bonk, and we hit a wall, or a lot of that is in general fueling improperly. It's just hard. But okay, so you ran the 17 miler, you got a little depleted and stuff. What was after that? Not necessarily the runs. When did you meet people to run with?
so all of this was pre-Pegasus. So at the very
Okay.
end of May, I had another 10K coming up in June. But at the very end of May, I just happened to open my phone. It was a really stressful night. I remember it was a very inconvenient morning the next day to do this, but I happened to open my phone, scroll across like a few posts, and one of them happened to be a Dallas Running Club group run on a Saturday morning. And spontaneously, for some reason, I was just like, I really need to go to this. It's really inconvenient tomorrow morning with everything going on, but I just really need to go to this. So I went to my mom and dad and I was like, I just really need to go to this. I know it's horrible timing, but is there any way I can get there in the morning? And then we ended up going the next morning. I was a little bit late, but I ran with another woman who ended up being late, and we ran together. It was the first time I saw White Rock Lake. And then a week later, I was like, I'm definitely coming back because I got to run with people for the first time, meet other runners, and that was super cool because I've been running solo for a long time at that point. So I go the
Yeah.
next week with the earlier group and we do a long run together. I joined them for a section of their workout. It was like an 11-mile run, had so much fun doing it. And they learned that I wanted to run a pretty fast marathon, half marathon time. And they told me that there was a group called Train Pegasus that had a lot of fast marathoners. They'll push you to run fast. You should join them. Showed up at
Yeah.
a Tuesday workout and never stopped showing up after that.
That's pretty cool. And now you go all the time, right?
Yeah, I'm there. It's very rare that I'm not there.
All right. That's awesome. I love that story because what it tells me is that you just went to White Rock, ran with some people or somebody you just met because somebody was late, another woman. And then the next time you knew about this 11 miler that they did or something, you went back and then they said, hey, you should go to Train Pegasus. And you did.
Yeah.
That's what the beauty is about this running community is that all you have to do is show up a little bit and then people will make recommendations. That in this case, that's what happened.
Yeah.
That's pretty badass. I like
I
it.
looked up
Uh,
the Train Pegasus website. I looked through all of the dates, like the long runs, the recovery runs. They had a track workout and then tempo on Thursday or an easy run. And I was like, cool, basically. And they had coaching opportunities. So I decided to go there.
and you go one day and what happened? I want to hear about the first few days and first few times that you went. It's always awkward to go
It was very
places.
awkward, especially I have a lot of social anxiety. So I love to meet people, but at the same time, struggle with a lot of social anxiety. So it was very awkward. And I didn't really know what was going on because I never run any of these routes or with any of these people
Of
in my
course.
life. I had no idea what paces we were going to run. I just knew it was fast. I had no idea what was going on.
Jerry, you should be proud of yourself for if you have this social anxiety and you just show up and you made it happen. Sometimes you just gotta be bold and make stuff happen, and you did. And I would be proud of that. Now you have all these friends, and you showed up the other night with. I was there as well with the Train Pegasus group, having beers and pizza. I want to go to those things. I'm just a more of a people person. Cool. You hang out, go, and then you start running with some folks, and then what happened? I'm trying to push to this race that you did so well in here in Dallas Marathon.
So
So let's think.
I trained for that 10K in June. And I
Yeah.
ran that. This was like 2 weeks after I joined the group. So I done one long run ever with the group. It was actually an incredible long run for me. It would have been a huge half marathon PR again if we had gone to 13.1. We did 12 that morning, but that was super cool. I was running with the fastest pack at the time and just as felt really great about that long run. The next weekend had this 10K. It was Murphy in June. The heat was, I remember that 10K was pretty brutal. I hit I was 1.8 miles in and it felt like I was 5 miles in already. And I was like, oh no, really fighting I didn't think I was going to PR that day, but it was an out and back course. And as I was going on the long stretch, like really hurting people like out and backs, people cheering from the other side. And all of a sudden I was back running 30 seconds faster again because I ended up 30 seconds too slow for my goal pace that I wanted. And I was like, how on earth am I going to make this happen? I'm going 30 seconds too slow and I'm like dying out here. Came across the finish line in 40 minutes and 8 seconds.
Wow. That's not a huge PR, but a pretty good PR. That's awesome. In the summertime. So
Yeah.
that's pretty awesome. All right. So you did that, and I'm sure you keep PRing all the time. You haven't had a bad race yet. It sounds like that wasn't a fun race, but you still did well,
I'd
you know?
make it happen. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember sometimes I hear a bunch of people PRing and then they have a bad race, and I'm like, yeah, at some point it's going to happen. Not every race is going to be a PR. Anyways, you did this 10K. You've been hanging out with Pegasus a little bit. What was next after that? Did you
So
want to do a
the
half
next
or anything?
weekend,
Or
oh, the next weekend after that was actually pretty eventful. It's
oh,
really close to when Fonz started coaching me. So the next weekend we did a long run and it was going to be a 14-mile long run. And once again, I was just going to run along with the group like I had done the 2 weeks previously. And originally it was going to be like low sevens, which at that point for my level was pushing it for 14. But I was
oh,
like, I think like I can do this. We did like just barely sub 7 pace 2 weeks ago for 12. So like I can do 14. Like I believed I could do it. So we go out. We're 4 miles in and I am already like they're stopping for water. I already have my hands like on my knees 4 miles in. And I'm like, I
oh,
don't know why. I'm like, I was really just breaking, but I didn't say anything because I didn't want to look, I always want to not look weak, don't want to complain, wanted to look like I could run with the strong runners. So I just was like, I'm just going to carry on. But so we keep going. I eventually get dropped, but there's people running behind me. So they think, oh, she'll be fine because people are behind her.
yeah.
They were behind me for quite a few miles. I just remember every like step, like clicking off these like 7, 10 miles. Like every step was like the most muscular fatigue I'd ever felt. Like this whole run was just brutal from start to finish. There's like a segment that I totally don't remember. I don't remember when I couldn't hear them talking behind me anymore. I ended up going completely straight off the lake down Sopak Trail, on a whole segment of miles that just completely blacked out. Don't remember. I just remember I was ending up straight on a trail. Didn't know how I got there. Had to stop for a while, tried to take a gel, was not taking. I walked for half a mile or a little more, thought I was going to throw up at mile 10, but I was like, I determined I'm going to run for 14. So kept going straight, ran till I hit 14. I was like, okay, I ran 14, but where am I? I was all the way at the end of Sopak Trail. I'd make it out to the road. I had no
Wow.
idea where I was. Eventually ran out of my bottle. It was hot in June and then was trying to be like, okay, I didn't have my phone either at the time because I thought I'd be with the group, but I wasn't. I had no way to call anybody, so I was just out walking the trail. Eventually thought I gotta find the lake.
Keep going.
And so I'm just walking for a long
I'm
time. I'm out
intrigued.
of drink. I ended up being less about I want to find people and more I need to find water and then I can worry about finding people because I had one gel left. That was it. No more drink, no phone, just me and one gel. And I was like, I need to find water. Finally find the sign that says White Rock Lake after being out there for well over an hour. And when I found that, there was a bridge above it not far after, and Jill was on the bridge and she called my name. And I was basically like, like, I thought I was gonna be stuck out there forever. I was fighting, like, not having a panic attack out there, trying to find my way back. I didn't know. I was like, I thought people might look for me, but I didn't know if they would be able to find me out there. But she found me. Then I walked a little further, and Bragan ran over to me and took me to a water fountain by the car. And Jill, Bragan, and Fonz took me back to Taco Joint, got me Gatorade and water quickly. Thought it could be a hospital situation, but I was okay out there. But
Wow,
they found me.
that's crazy. Yeah, they count all the
It,
people. I've seen them. I've seen Jill count all the people. You know, she
yeah.
makes sure everybody comes back at some point, and so I'm sure that's what she was doing. Yeah, and that's something I learned just now. I was like, yeah, that's a good point. Wow.
Yeah, but, and then
You know, it
not
could be
long
it has
after
something to
that.
do. Maybe it has something to do with the hard 10K you ran just a week before, and then going to do 14 miles at the same pace, basically.
It
Not
was
exactly, but a fast pace.
it was also the first week that I made it to that 70-mile mark that
Oh,
first
okay.
week. And I think I just wasn't strong enough for that at the time. And just my body tapped out and was like, you're finished.
Yeah, of
But
course.
then
I
in
mean,
July, because I think it was right after that they were like, I had shown I could be pretty tough. Like, not in the most ideal way. Maybe don't do that. If it's not taking, maybe don't go to that extreme of a level. But
I think
then
you.
planned to start coaching me in July, and they created something pretty cool for me. In June, I signed up for the Dallas Marathon, and then that's how that
Okay.
plan got started.
All right, that's quite the story, and I appreciate you telling that. To me, I would think you'd learned a little bit, hopefully, and I think others kind of learned a little bit about you, and at the very least, it brought you all closer together, you know. And now you had a coach and Fonz and things like that, so it worked out for the best. And we all have our stories to where we get lost and stuff, but luckily you were right there at the lake. At some point, you would have found water. I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
But dang, the focus. I'm gonna do my 14.
I really was like, I still get like that. Like, I will just grind through these workouts. Like, I've had plenty of blackout moments in workouts that I just don't remember because it got so painful in a workout that I'm just completely dissociated at that point, just still going, determined to just do it. Like,
Know, determination is something, but sometimes you got to think about it. You don't want to hurt yourself. Good. All right. So you start training with Pegasus more and you're officially coached by Fonz. So, how did that change your training and things like that?
I finally had workouts and mileage that were specifically designed for me. So I wasn't just following without like following anyone's workout without knowing what it was that day or how fast we were going. I was finally doing workouts that were meant for my level that I could still chase the fastest group because I still love to chase. I love to
Yeah.
try, just go for some crazy things sometimes, but workouts that were tailored to me to improve me while still letting me chase the way I wanted to
Yeah.
and still push hard.
Yeah. Just during some of the workouts. And who do you train with mostly now? Like I know Pegasus, but there's certain people that you run with mostly or?
I have quite a few, so on like easy runs, I have quite a few friends spread out on Wednesdays, some people from Not Your Average Run Club that I enjoy running with, but primarily Kendall Bragan ran with Jill tons, but primarily them when they're around.
Okay, so you decided to run the marathon. I'm sure peer pressure is always a fun thing. It always happens, no matter, especially with a group like Pegasus, or same thing happened to me years ago. Everybody's doing it, might as well do it. So tell me a little bit about your thinking as you started thinking about as Dallas Marathon became closer. How was your mindset? What training, that kind of stuff, and
So I
where
know
were
when
you?
I first signed up, my first dream was Boston qualification. And at the time, that seemed like an outlandish feat as well. But that was my first dream of running the marathon was that I wanted to qualify for Boston for sure when I signed up.
Did you um did you hear about Boston from others, or have you read about it before? What would get you so excited about it?
I think and so many people on the team have run it that I heard
Yeah.
a lot about it. With all the running content that I like to watch and stuff, I had found things about Boston and the qualifying times, and it was a thing that so many people got excited about. So I thought, well, that's cool. That sounded so cool. And you had to run fast, qualify, really appealed to me.
Yeah, that makes sense. You're pretty competitive and you want to get to that next level, and how do you do it? And that's Boston. All right, so you get to Dallas Marathon, day of, right? Like you've been training. How'd your training go, by the way? Like all the way from July to December. Did it go well or that kind of stuff?
I would say overall, it went great in the sense that I came to every day. ran all my miles, which that's not necessarily a dependent, like things can happen, but I was there every day. Despite all the circumstances, I would still fight for all my workouts, whether it was taking or not. I was still happy to be there, happy to like just always give 100% of anything I had. And it turned into because in a very early September, I actually ended up losing my dad.
No.
And before that, he was one of the people that he loves to watch me run. He talked about wanting to like how cool it was that his daughter was going to be a marathon runner and run Dallas. Like, no matter the time, that was all just super cool to him. So it then turned into running was now my way of starting to process what's still very early stage grief. And that Dallas
Yeah.
Marathon became something that was fully like for me, but it was also for him because he would be like so proud to see me do that. So I had to do it and I had to do it well.
It's certainly a way that, like you said, you can process that and push yourself through it. So he's with you through that whole entire way when things get hard and things like that. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the first of that marathon, how you got through it, what you did, what you were thinking, all of that kind of stuff, the day of the marathon itself. What was going through your mind?
So the day of woke up was so excited because it was finally the day that I had been working for 6 months. The day never felt real. It was
Mm,
like I knew I was going to run 26.2 miles. I knew I had signed up, but like the thought of it felt surreal. The thought of attempting sub 3 was like surreal. I knew I was going to do it, but at the same time, it was like, this can't possibly be happening now. It was just a dream in my head for so long.
yeah. And so you get to the starting line, you're there. What happens? To walk me through the plan. Like you walked me through it last time whenever we were running together. Let's think about that piece of it.
Yeah.
You had the plan.
So
What did that look like?
So the night before, Fonz had texted me, asked how I was feeling about it, and I said I was definitely so excited to run this, but also very nervous, understandably. And then he
Of
gave me the
course.
plan. He gave me paces to run, but also just like the places and streets where he wanted me to be able to relax, where I should pick it up, where I should run smart to get over the rolling hills without burning out the tank early. Just I then took a Sharpie, wrote down two separate plans for all my mile splits of what the goals were, knowing that I could vary a little bit if I needed to, but this is where you stay relaxed. These are the paces you do from like miles 8 to whatever 1 through all my splits were written for me to see.
I remember you telling me that, and you're telling me my first mile is going to be about a 7:15, and your goal, from my understanding, was under 3 hours. And I thought that's pretty slow
He
to
had
run
given
the
me,
first mile.
yeah, he had given me, he said through the first 3 miles, run 7:15 to 7:20. And I ended up
Yeah,
running actually a little more conservative than that because I should have started splitting my watch, but that's not really that big of a deal. I thought
yeah.
it sounded conservative too, and I was like, really? I'll have a shot? Yeah, you'll have a shot to do it. You start there, running those 3 miles, 7:15, 7:20, get a feel for it. Super chill effort. It's gonna feel like crazy, but just relax. It will feel really good. Get to the lake. The miles in between the first 5K and the lake would be like high 650s, still relax. Get over the rollers, don't burn out the tank going up. He said slow down between 15 to even 30 seconds going uphill so that you don't burn the engine because it's not worth it. There's no gain from that. And then around the lake, the aim was to just cruise through 645s. I slowed down because the headwind was also giving some resistance. And again, I thought I can't burn it out fighting this headwind when I have 14 miles to go. I can't burn it out now over some headwind. That's really not worth it. So dialed back the effort a little bit, kept it controlled but fast, and just let myself cruise calmly through the obstacles that were out there.
Okay. So when did you just let it go, or did you just cruise in? What did that look like all the way from past the lake onto the finish?
So clearing the lake, or I remember also thinking out on the lake, like I had seen somebody else mention this somewhere, but you're only going to live this one time. You're only going to be out here experiencing this for at the like minimum 3 hours of your life. And when you think about it, that's not very long at all. So really
Mm.
soak all this in. So I was thinking like look at the lake. You see it all the time, but look at the lake. It's race day. Look at these trees, feel the wind, enjoy it, because you're only going to experience this once, and it's not for very much time.
Yeah.
So I really just soaked in the experience out there. Leaving the lake was, I knew that big hill was coming between miles 18 and
Mhm.
21 was Ross Street, where I remember he told me to relax, to stay relaxed until I get to Ross Street, and then I can send it. So I find this hill, and I now saw why. And I was really glad I saved the tank and ran smart, because that was definitely a climb. And especially if you had burned out, you might not make it up that hill. But I make it out. I see the mile, like to mile 20 and then mile 21. And I realized, like, I actually had tears well up in my eyes, like tears of joy, because I was doing it. I had 5 miles to go and I still felt
Got it.
good, which I was astonished that I still felt good 22 miles in. I was not expecting that. I really
Yeah.
engaged with the crowd still. Was just so excited to be out there, which I think might have masked any pain I was feeling, because I was just so happy to be out there. I realized like I was doing it. Like I was doing something that felt completely not real, and it was now what I was living in real time.
That's pretty amazing. I love that story so far. You're 22 miles in, 23. You know what's going on then. You know,
I
I know what
start
happens at the end. So,
I start to put in a final, I start to put in a surge. I end up at 6:35 pace, momentarily 6:25 with the cheers.
mhm.
And then I dialed it back a little bit because I'm like, you still have 5 miles. Be a little weary.
Yeah,
There's 5 miles, but you're at the point now where you can let go and just send it, because this is where you go fast.
yeah.
So tried to cruise at as close to the middle sixes as I possibly could. I get till 3.5 left, or the 5K, is when I start
Yeah.
to feel like my quads might be giving. But aerobically, I still had it. I still felt like I could mostly control my breath and stuff. So I was like, okay, I just need my quads to make it the last 5K. Like, I know my legs are tired. I know it hurts, but like, this is where you fight hard. And I knew that so many people I loved were watching me. They trained with me. They were so proud of me. And I was like, and I was so proud of me too. I'm like, this is where you fight.
Of
It's
course.
only 5K. In the grand scheme of workouts I've fought through, 5K is so short. I knew I could fight for 5K.
20 minutes or less.
Yeah.
And you fought.
Yeah. I looked at my time when I was at the 5K. I was at like 2:45 at that point, and I was like, I'm not quite gonna, I was like, I'm not gonna break 3, which I knew at the half split, because I came through the half in 1:32:59. That would have been a very aggressive negative split. So I knew I wasn't going to break 3 that day, but I knew that either going sub 3:05 or 3:05 something, I knew that was within reach. And so that was the beagle. And so that's what I was really fighting for now, was this 3:05.
Okay.
I remember
Yeah.
having 1 mile to go, and it felt like the longest mile of my life.
Uh-huh. It always does.
Yeah, like, I'm like, you have 1 mile to go, but especially now, everyone's probably screaming at that tracker, fight for 1 more mile. And I'm telling this to myself, there's 1 mile, fight hard for 1.2 more, and then
Hmm.
you've made it.
You're done.
And so I did. I kept grinding for that last mile, crossed the finish line, stopped my watch, and had a moment where my vision slightly spun, but I was like, whoa. Then walked forward to get my medal. And one of the race assistants was like, you all right? And I was like, I think so. And then I was like, actually, no. And then that's when Fonz came over. They were like, we need a wheelchair. Because I couldn't. I had literally emptied the whole tank. I was completely out.
Wow. I'm glad Fonz is there. Wow. What a great story. You hit a 3:05. What was your time?
3:05:39.
So Jera Crandall at 20 years old hits a 3:05, like 29 or whatever.
And
Wow. Crazy.
I remember being in the wheelchair, and Jill was there too. And I didn't even realize this, but I just hear her go, she was 5th in the women's open division. That's awesome. And I was just like, really? I had no idea what I
Think
had
about that.
done. I had
Yeah.
no idea that what I had placed in the divisions. I just knew that like I made it to Boston, and I made my Beagle. It was close to sub 3, not quite there, but I'm still very well within that range, that I'm close.
It's rare that people make the Boston Marathon the first time they run a marathon. It's rare. That's number one. What you shattered it, because I think your time is like a 3:25 or something. I don't know,
Yeah.
3:20, I don't, whatever it is. Yeah, you killed that. But more importantly, I mean, you obviously put the work in, the time, the effort. You had a crisis that happened with your dad passing away. that, trust me, I understand. My mom passed away when I was 19 and things like that. So it's not an easy feat. If there's a positive to that, it is that you promised your dad you were going to go run this marathon and he would have been very proud of you. He was already proud of you. You have that and you accomplished it and you actually crushed it. You didn't just accomplish something great, you did something great. And I think the sky's the limit. I want to say this one thing because I think it was just fun. I was running the half marathon and I'm sitting there and I'm running at about a 7:15 pace. My goal was 1:30, but I didn't even get close to that day. But the point was, the first mile was 7:15, and then I saw you, and it's like, she's doing exactly what Fonz said. I was like,
Yeah.
good for her for not going out too fast, and
So,
which I thought it's rare for anybody on their very first race like that, and especially a 20-year-old, to go out and be smart. And you're as smart as look. I'm sure Fonz had a big part of that
yeah.
to push you. But the more important thing is that you listen to that good coaching. Not all of us do that. It's not easy because you want to get out there because you're feeling good and stuff like that. So,
But
look, a very well run race, like very well coached, and congratulations. I think that's amazing.
thank you.
Yeah. What
I would
else? I
say
mean,
some of the biggest racing keys, like I always heard, like you can end your race up to a week before you even go out there and race. So what I would say to anyone going out to race is like focus on everything that you can control and just keep that and make sure that you don't leave any controllable variables out on the table. You obviously can't control the weather. So now I only look at the weather to dress accordingly and get fuel accordingly, but I don't let myself worry about that because I can't control the weather, so I don't really care. But things like doing the 3-day carb load, knowing the equation of how many grams of carbs to eat based on my body weight, I had that equation, made myself hit that number every day for 3 days. I knew the carb load was secure. I'm not leaving any time on the table being underfueled. I hydrated well, took in extra electrolytes. Another checkbox. I'm not leaving any dehydration out on the table to slow me down. I had my carbs that I had practiced with, my fuel, my gels. My gels in my pockets, my bottle with carbs, electrolytes, and Gatorade in it. So knew I had all my nutrition secured, no time left on the table for a lack of nutrition. Had my race kit, everything I needed, my times written, what I was going to follow, my trust in my coach. Even if I was scared of the plan he gave me, even if it sounded aggressive, I just trusting him because he wouldn't give me something that I couldn't do.
that's some great tips. I wasn't expecting that.
But yeah,
That's pretty awesome. I love that. I was going to ask you if there's anything that we missed. I still can ask that, but I feel like you just touched it. Anything I should have covered that I didn't or that we should have?
my first half marathon was Oktoberfest, which it
Yeah.
was a pretty interesting experience for the half. But
Why so
basically,
interesting?
why was it interesting?
Yeah.
I ended up having, my goal was to break 125 at that half, which I didn't come far from it. Again, I ran 126.56, but I was cruising through the middle. Again, I had a pace plan that Fonz had given me. I was following it. I was cruising through the middle section. I get to the halfway mark and I'm like, okay, it's starting to feel like meh, but I'm like, I'm through the half. Like, it wasn't feeling that bad. I was starting to pick it up. With 4.5 miles left, I had the most excruciating stomach pain of my life for the whole last 4.5 miles. And I was like, how am I going to make it? 4.5 felt very long in that state. I had one gel. I hadn't opened my gel yet. So I opened it. I was like, I'm going to take anything at this point to try and see if I can do this. Yeah, I only got down like a quarter of it. And it's now a joke because I only could get down like a quarter. But then I was just carrying it the rest of the way. And I didn't really care at that point because I was just focused on somehow making it and maintaining some kind of a pace, at least at marathon effort at that point. So
Yeah. Wow.
I ended up finishing the race with my gel all the way down my legs. It was like stuck to my, it was
Wicked.
just everywhere. And I finished and I'm like, I need help. Like, it was everywhere.
Wow. You were a mess that day.
I was, but I definitely had again, that determination and grit to just get through something where I was
Yeah.
like, I felt like I went through the last mile barely breathing because every breath I took at that point, I felt like I was being like stabbed again, but I got through it. I was determined. I'm like, I'm not stopping. I'm going to keep running, just keep running.
You do know, Jera, that it is okay to stop if you want it.
But
I
yeah,
understand kind of the determination and things like that. But if your stomach's hurting that bad, it's just one race. You're 20. You've got tons and tons of
it was
potential
brutal out there.
races later.
Yeah.
Stop and walk for a minute. It's okay.
But yeah, and I would obviously say that, especially in training, if that happens, yeah, and depending on what's happening in a race. But
Yeah.
I guess that just
Depending.
describes me. Like, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna full send it. Whatever comes my way, I'm just gonna take it and do the best I can with whatever I'm given.
Obviously, you did that during just a practice run of 17 or 14 miles, and
Oh
you
yeah.
just had to get that 14 thing, right? I'm seeing some signs here, and look, don't get me wrong, I love the grit, the focus, and I think that part of it is that's what it takes to be really good. It's just, but you also have to think that at the moment, you're not doing this for a living. You're doing it for fun, and you know, you're trying to get better, and I think the potential is who knows what the potential is for you if you keep doing it and keep being smart like you are. And I love that you're very smart about nutrition, about training, about the grit, about starting off the marathon at exactly what your coach was saying. You got to coach before your first marathon. Nobody does that hardly, you know,
Yeah.
and you did. Wow. You made a lot of really smart decisions and you don't see that much with anyone for that matter. And your age, a 20-year-old just goes out there and does shit. And I would have, like, I don't know, you didn't know a lot at first, but it didn't take you long to figure out, hey, eventually you got to coach and training plans and you've got to eat right, you've got to drink, you've got to do all these things. You knew exactly. You're pretty calculated in your marathon. And I do think if you didn't listen to the Brent Woodall, did you listen to the Brent Woodall podcast?
I've
That
listened to
guy,
part of it so far.
yeah, that guy is very meticulous in all the things he does. And so I think you would appreciate how he is very focused in on everything, whether how he runs, the things that he takes. I mean, it sounds like you have some of that in you. And that, to me, can lead to greatness. You just kill it and knock it out of the park. I mean, that's just me. And it'd be fun to watch in the future and see what you do. And if you want to continue, what's next for you? That's
So
the one thing I
as of now, talked to Fonz about it last Wednesday. Actually, we were at Starbucks because I wasn't running.
hmm
Tomorrow's my first day back, which I'm very excited for.
smart.
But so he actually said instead of doing a spring marathon this year, he wants me to wait to race the full again all the way until the 2027 Houston Marathon. And
Really?
in this whole year's time, just build raw strength, let my musculature develop more for a whole nother year and develop speed from the 5K to half marathon distance to hopefully go to
Okay.
Houston in 2027 and run something super fast on a much flatter course and just see what I can do at that point. I'll be 21 then.
Yeah.
So 3 months out from
And you'll have
Boston.
Boston. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, but I love that. Houston's a great course. I'm going there for the half this year, but this next year, 2026. I've done it several times, the half, but I don't, as you might know, I don't do fulls anymore. So my wife does all those and she'll be in Boston as well. But yeah, I like that. And it's a really great approach. You can just kick ass in the half marathon on the 5Ks. It will get you like super fast. And
Yeah.
said, do you do any weight training or anything like that or no?
Yeah, so I came from also wanting to do competitive powerlifting for a point in
Mm,
time where I was like
wow.
between 17 and 19 was probably the biggest time where I was lifting really heavy. I still can lift. We don't obviously train lifting that heavy, but I still do lift heavy and I do a lot more runner specific stuff now, but I think that strength really carries over to take on the volume and the intensity that I try to train at. There's progression. I'm so young still. I have so much time. My body's still developing.
Yeah.
As all I get stronger, I think a lot of that helped me be much more resistant to a lot of the potential injuries that could have come from if I hadn't done that much weight training that could come from just spontaneously saying, I want to run between 60 and 70 miles a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that
That's
protected
crazy.
me from that. But I love lifting heavy. My back squat is still my favorite lift and my best lift out of all of them. But I still love strength training. I love the gym still.
That's perfect. Now you just build. I love that idea of that for the next year you just build all the way. It seems like a long time, but it'll go just like that, and you'll have a lot of fun in the halves and 5Ks and things like that.
And I love the marathon. It's my favorite thing. I was determined I was going to love it. The long run is my favorite run of the week, my favorite workout. I was determined to love the marathon, and I definitely do love the marathon.
Great. That's great. Jared, this has been really great. I really appreciate you telling your story. It's fun. You're young, a lot of potential. You work hard, you're focused, you do all the right things, and that's going to get you far, I think. Potential's there. You've already shattered, you know, Your first marathon. So congratulations. Thank you everyone for tuning in to another DFW Running Talk. I'm Chris Detzel. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter at dfwrunningtalk.substack.com. Jera, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.